Welcome to another episode of Keep It Off. I'm Mel Harris, and today I'm going to talk about something that really worries a lot of us: hair loss. So many of you have contacted me. It's unbelievable, and it's really, really worrying. So I know that, and I'm going to take a deep dive into exactly what is happening when our hair falls out, and specifically why it happens after massive weight loss. What I'm going to do for you is take a very deep dive into exactly what is actually happening when our hair falls out, and specifically why it happens after significant weight loss. I personally understand firsthand the horror of seeing clumps of hair swirling around the shower drain like something out of a horror movie. And when it first happened for me, I genuinely felt sick. I immediately berated myself with all the things I hated about my body. And now, on top of all that, I was losing my hair. To me, though, and I think for a lot of you, it's not the hair. For me, it was also my femininity that I was losing. So today I'm going to explain exactly what's going on inside your body that causes hair loss, and most importantly, things that you can actually do about it. Now, I've researched this heavily for us, so everything is grounded in evidence and in my own personal experience of standing in front of a mirror wondering what the hell was going on. Now, I know we all search on social media, so if you're in any weight loss support groups right now, whether it might be Facebook or Reddit or Instagram or WhatsApp, even the NHS follow-up clinics, I can virtually guarantee that you've seen this question raised or even asked it yourself. Oh, my hair is falling out. Is this normal? Has anyone else experienced this? I'm terrified. I did everything right. I'm taking my vitamins. I'm eating my protein. It is one of the most emotional and distressing things that happens in the post-weight loss phase. And it's almost entirely misunderstood. And I think that is what makes it so scary. Let me take you through the facts, which I promise I'm going to keep as human as possible. Hair loss is a condition called Telogen Effluvium. Now, it sounds very dramatic, but it's actually a very real, very documented physiological response to significant stress on the body. Normally, our hair grows in cycles. At any one time, roughly 80 to 90% of our hair follicles are in what's called the growth phase. The remaining 10 to 20% are basically in a resting phase. It's called telogen, and it's before they shed naturally and are replaced by new growth. Under normal circumstances, this is important, we shed about 50 to 100 hairs every day. And you might not necessarily even notice it. That's normal. But when your body experiences significant physical or emotional stress, it does something quite extraordinary. It essentially hits an emergency pause button on hair growth. It diverts resources like protein, iron, and energy away from what it considers to be non-essential. It redirects them to our vital organs, our heart, our liver, our immune system. Our body does not class hair as essential for survival. Makes sense. So the follicles for hair get deprioritized. A large number of them shift prematurely into that resting phase that I mentioned, and it happens all at the same time. And then about 8 to 12 weeks later, although, it could actually be up to 6 months later, they then shed them all at once. That's the horror film shower moment. Now, and this is important, this response happens regardless of how you lose your weight. Doesn't matter whether you've had surgery, doesn't matter whether you've been injecting GLP-1s every week. If your body has undergone rapid, significant weight loss, hair loss is a possibility. Two things I want to emphasize here. Firstly, hair loss is a possibility, not a surety. And the other key thing I want to emphasize is the word rapid. This type of hair loss is far more common when we lose weight very quickly. Research shows that somewhere between 40 and 80% of bariatric surgery patients experience some degree of hair loss, typically peaking around 3 to 6 months post-surgery. And in 2024, a review was published that pulled the incidence at 57%. So we're talking more than a half. And for GLP-1 users, hair loss has been reported as a recognized side effect. And it's linked basically to the same mechanism: rapid weight loss, reduced calorie intake, and protein insufficiency. But here's where it gets nuanced, because there's a second layer to this, particularly for surgery patients. The surgery itself changes how your gut absorbs key nutrients. After a gastric bypass in particular, your body's ability to absorb iron, zinc, B12, folate are significantly impaired, as it is with vitamin D. And all of these nutrients are critical for healthy hair. They're critical for healthy hair follicle function. So we've got two things happening at once here: the physical stress response of rapid weight loss and potential micronutrient deficiency from malabsorption. Zinc and iron are thought to be the two biggest culprits, and another study in 2021, which was done on sleeved patients, found a significant association between hair loss and decreased serum zinc and iron 6 months post their surgery. In fact, the authors actually concluded that zinc and iron could be used as predictors of hair loss. That's quite significant. So now you know what it is, and now you know why it's happening. So let me tell you what it felt like for me personally. I remember the exact morning I was standing in the shower, I looked down, and there was just so much hair. I genuinely panicked because I'd worked so hard. I was showing up for myself every single day, and this felt like my body was punishing me for it. It's not just a vanity issue, although honestly, hair does matter. It's part of how we present ourselves to the world. It's tied up in our identity. And when you've just spent months or years being on a transformational journey, and you finally feel like you might be starting to look different, to feel different, to actually feel good, maybe for the first time in your life, and then your hair starts to go, that hits differently. Well, what helped me most in that moment wasn't a supplement. It wasn't a new shampoo. It was my ingrained resolve to not be beaten, to find out what the fuck was going on and why. It was understanding. Once I understood what was happening, I could breathe and then I could act. That's the Keo mindset. We don't catastrophize, we investigate. We understand and then we respond. So let's look at what not to do, because the internet, bless it, is absolutely full of well-meaning but genuinely counterproductive advice on this topic. I want to spend a few minutes here because the mistakes that people make when they notice hair loss can actually make things worse. And I see them all the time in social media support groups. Mistake number one, probably the biggest, is the supplement spiral. You Google hair loss after weight loss, and with a nanosecond, you are looking at a basket full of biotin capsules, collagen powder, keratin supplements, hair gummies, and a very expensive serum that claims to have been developed by NASA. Yeah, okay, well, I'm only slightly exaggerating with the NASA bit. In fairness, putting it very simply, biotin supplements are not harmful if they're taken as directed. But there is very limited clinical evidence that extra biotin beyond your own existing levels will prevent or reverse hair loss unless you are actually biotin deficient. Biotin doesn't make your hair grow faster. If your biotin levels are already normal, it merely supports normal health growth when the deficiency exists. And a true biotin deficiency is very rare in the general population. That's because Biotin is found in such a wide range of foods, and even our gut bacteria produces it in small amounts. Where deficiency can occur is in situations involving malabsorption, prolonged, restrictive eating, certain medications, and after bariatric surgery. That's why bariatric multivitamins basically include biotin as part of their formation rather than as a standalone hero nutrient. And let's not forget, there's also a big supplement industry built around biotin and collagen and all the other things I've mentioned, particularly in high dose forms, and they're always marketed for hair growth. It's an industry. Many of these doses are far above what the body actually requires. The recommended daily intake is tiny, measured in micrograms, and yet supplements will often contain thousands of micrograms. And be careful, because there's something else that biotin can do. It can interfere with certain blood tests, including thyroid tests and cardiac markers. And that's an important but often overlooked, dare I say, ignored point. Another mistake is cutting your calories even further because you're worried that the hair loss means your weight loss or maintenance isn't working. And I've seen this in the keto community a lot. People panic. They restrict more. They drop their protein levels when they restrict their food, and they make both the hair loss and the nutrient deficiency significantly worse. So please don't do this. Mistake number 3 is when you abandon your prescribed bariatric vitamins because you've read online that supplements don't help. Your prescribed vitamins are not the same as random hair supplements from, I don't know, Holland and Barrett or wherever else you find them. They're clinically formulated to address the specific malabsorption issues that comes with bariatric surgery. That's why you need specific bariatric multivits. Missing them is one of the fastest routes to serious, long-term deficiency, not just for your hair, but for your bones, your nervous system, and your immune function. So what can you do? First off, get tested. This is the most important thing you can do. Book a blood test with your GP and ask specifically for your iron levels, your ferritin, your serum zinc, your B12, folate, and vitamin D to be checked. If you've had bariatric surgery, you are absolutely entitled to this. It should be done for you every year. The reason you need to be tested is because hair loss from a zinc deficiency needs a completely different response to hair loss from an iron deficiency. And that needs a completely different response to hair loss from a low B12. You cannot supplement intelligently without knowing what you're actually low in. And conversely, if your levels are fine, then the hair loss really is just the natural cycle. And the primary intervention is time, protein, and patience. Next, and I say this over and over again, protein first. Protein first. Every single meal. It is the most evidence-backed intervention for hair loss after weight loss. Your hair, the follicle of your hair is a protein. It's a protein called keratin. If you are not consuming enough protein to meet your body's daily requirements, your body will automatically deprioritize keratin production. It's as simple as that. Protein is not just for hair, it's for muscle preservation, for satiety, for metabolic health. But for hair, it is non-negotiable. Check out my episode about proteins for my deep dive on the subject. I want to close the content section of today's episode with something that I genuinely believe is more important than any supplement, any shampoo, and any blood test. It's the identity question. How you see yourself, who you believe yourself to be. Hair loss specifically, it's a season. It's not a sentence. It's a temporary physiological response to an extraordinary change that you've made to your life and to your body. Your hair follicles are merely resetting. The person who did the work to get here, the person who showed up every day, made the hard choices, chose their future health over their present comfort, that person has not been diminished by a few months of thinning hair. You're still there. Your hair will grow back, I promise you. The research backs me up on this. In most cases, regrowth begins within 6 to 12 months, once the shedding phase completes and your nutrition is restored. In the meantime, be as patient with yourself as you would be with someone you love going through the same thing. Let me just recap. Hair loss after significant weight loss is called Telogen Effluvium. It is a documented physiological response to physical stress and rapid weight change. It affects bariatric surgery patients, GLP-1 medication users, and people who've lost significant amounts of weight organically. You need to get your bloods done so that you know exactly what you're dealing with. You must always eat your protein first, every single meal. That's 80 to 120 grams of protein every day. This is a season, not a sentence. Your body is just resetting. It's natural. And remember who you are, the person who chose the change, who shows up constantly, that is not defined by a few months of hair loss. I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. If this episode helped, then I'd love for you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. As always, I want you to feel inspired and motivated by our podcast. So if there is any special topic or question you'd like me to address, like I've done today, just let me know via our website, which is keomethod.com, or any of our social media platforms. All of the details are below in the show notes. And please let me know what you think. I love getting your feedback. So you know the drill. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. I'm Mel Harris. This is the Keep It Off podcast. I'll see you next week.